Hello, everyone, and welcome to Science Has an Accent, the podcast where science speaks every language and every voice has a story. No matter where you're from, science knows no borders. So get ready to learn, question, and explore, because no matter your accent, science is a language we all share. My name's Kiri and I'll be your host today. As you know, in each episode, we bring you 4 unique voices exploring groundbreaking research, unexpected discoveries, and the people behind the science, from genetics and in vitro health to human movement and healthcare utilization. We've got something for every curious mind. So let's get started. Movement isn't just about muscles. It's a complex coordination of signals between the brain, spinal cord, and nervous system. But what happens when that connection is disrupted? Our first speaker, Camilla Cashon, explores how spinal cord stimulation could help restore function after injury. Camilla?
The coordination required for initiating and maintaining high-intensity activities like exercise is often underappreciated. When we move, our brain sends signals to our spinal cord to initiate movement. At the same time, there's tightly coupled actions from the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system increases our blood pressure and heart rate, among other things, to sustain these efforts. After spinal cord injury, individuals experience paralysis and interruption of the sympathetic signals from the brain. This can cause severe exercise intolerance in people with neck injuries because there's dysfunction of the sympathetic nervous system. Emerging therapies, including electrical stimulation of the lumbar spinal cord, have shown promise in improving both movement and sympathetic function post-injury. However, the underlying mechanisms, especially within the spinal cord, remain poorly understood. A research team from the Spinal Cord Research Center, or SCRC, at the University of Manitoba may have identified a spinal neuron that plays a key role in these improvements, seen with epidural stimulation. Dr. Jeremy Chopek's lab investigates V3 interneurons, which are well known for their involvement in movement. Previous studies have shown that deleting these neurons in mice results in less robust movements. Recently, the team discovered that V3 interneurons also project to sympathetic neurons throughout the thoracic spinal cord. Their findings indicate that approximately 8 to 20% of excitatory inputs to sympathetic neurons originate from V3 interneurons. Given the extensive input sympathetic neurons receive from various sources, this is a significant proportion. Notably, this is the first study to demonstrate an anatomical and functional connection between these V3 interneurons and sympathetic neurons, confirmed through electrophysiological experiments in mouse spinal cord models. These findings offer new insights into how motor and sympathetic functions are linked at the spinal level. Ultimately, the discovery could help explain the observed improvements in sympathetic function following epidural stimulation. And by targeting V3 interneurons, researchers may develop new strategies to enhance autonomic function and overall recovery in individuals with spinal cord injuries.
Thanks, Camilla. You've highlighted some incredible work and given us some hope for the future. But before we get too excited about the future, our next speaker examines a troubling trend in health disparities. Rachel Molyneux is here to talk about a widening health gap between First Nations people and others living in Manitoba. Over to you, Rachel.
Thanks, Kiri. So, a 2021 study from the University of Manitoba published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal has revealed troubling trends in the health disparities between First Nations individuals and other Manitoba residents. Despite some overall improvements, the gaps in health outcomes between these two groups has widened significantly over the past 2 decades. The study examined key health indicators such as life expectancy and availability of health services and compared data from the late 1990s to 2017. Researchers found that while premature mortality rates declined for both First Nations and non-First Nations Manitobans, the gap between them increased by 51%. Potential years of life lost, a measure of premature death essentially, also saw a widening divide with a 54% increase for women and a 32% increase for men. Most concerningly, life expectancies for First Nations individuals declined while increasing for other Manitobans, leading to an absolute gap that grew from approximately 8 years to 11 whole years over the study period, a relative increase of 4 to 5% in the gap. The research also highlighted significant shifts in healthcare access and utilization. While First Nations individuals initially had higher rates of ambulatory primary care visits, that advantage disappeared due to a decrease in visits over time. Hospitalization rates remained alarmingly high for First Nations individuals, more than twice that of Manitobans in both studies periods. Although hospital stays decreased overall, the gap in hospital days spent between the two groups widened by 50%. Dr. Alan Katz, one of the study's authors, emphasized the urgency of these findings, stating that despite efforts to close the gap, our study shows that health disparities are not just persisting, they're getting worse. This signals a clear need for new approaches that are culturally appropriate and community-driven. The study's conclusion highlights the needs for reevaluation of health policies and interventions, addressing the systemic factors contributing to these disparities, including socioeconomic determinants, access to culturally safe care, and historical inequities, will be crucial in reversing these trends. As policymakers and healthcare providers look to the future, ensuring that First Nations communities receive equitable and effective healthcare must be a priority.
Thanks so much for shedding light on this, Rachel. It's so important as a reminder of the work we still need to do to create a healthier future for everyone. Speaking of a healthier future, what if the keys to fighting colon cancer are hidden in the switches on our genes? A new study reveals how genetic markings differ between normal and cancerous cells. Our next speaker, Fatma Hassanpour, breaks it down for us. Fatma?
Today I want to talk about decoding the signatures on our genes, new clues to fight colon cancer. A new study from the University of Manitoba has discovered that special markings called H3K4ME3 on our genes are different in normal colon cells compared to the colon cancer cells. These markings can be like on or off switches that control which genes are active. The researchers found that in normal colon cells, genes involved in keeping cells together and in the development of the nervous system had a specific on marking. However, this marking was missing in colon cancer cells. Also, certain long non-coding RNA genes had different H3K4ME3 marking in normal versus colon cancer cells. These findings are detailed in a recently released preprint article. According to Ravinder Bahia, the first author of the study, identifying the genes that are silenced or activated, particularly in colon cancers, provides a list of actionable targets for designing effective treatments for this prevalent human disease. These findings could help scientists develop new and more effective treatments for colon cancer by targeting the genes that are wrongly switched on or off. Understanding this effectiveness may pave the way for personalized therapies that target the unique epigenetic signature of colon cancer cells, offering hope for improved outcomes for patients.
Thanks, Fatma. Our genes can certainly shape our health in surprising ways, including conditions like colon cancer. Now, what about high blood pressure? Could gestational diabetes raise hypertension in kids? When we think about high blood pressure, we associate it with older adults, sedentary behavior, or obesity. But did you know that high blood pressure or hypertension is one of the most common chronic conditions in children? Could the risk begin before birth? A new study from University of Manitoba set out to investigate just that by looking at whether gestational diabetes or high blood pressure during pregnancy plays a role in increasing a child's risk for hypertension. Dr. Nicole Brunton, a recent graduate from the University of Manitoba's Applied Health Sciences program, used 3 different study approaches to determine whether gestational diabetes directly causes high blood pressure in children. The results showed that while gestational diabetes is on the rise, it does not appear to independently lead to childhood hypertension. Instead, other shared risk factors could be influencing both conditions. Brunton explains that associations, even ones that show up repeatedly in the literature, are often just the tip of the iceberg, so we should be exercising quite a bit of caution when interpreting and applying the information. These findings highlight the importance of looking beyond blood sugar levels during pregnancy to better understand what drives hypertension in young people, particularly other key determinants of health. As research continues, identifying common risk factors to better understand the causes of both gestational diabetes and youth-onset hypertension may help shape more effective strategies for improving the long-term health outcomes for both mothers and children. And that's it for today's episode. A huge thank you to all of our contributors, 4 voices, 4 stories, and 1 shared passion for science. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep listening, and remember,
Science has an accent.